right. So, hey, you guys, we are doing a quick recording for all of Vanessa and Phil's team. And we're doing is hopping on and doing this really quick training to help you guys. It sounds like a few of you guys are kind of paralyzed and you love the patches, you know they're working, but you're not exactly sure how to share. So we were just going to give you guys some tips, and we were going to have Phil. Actually, I would love for you to start it out, Phil, by telling us exactly. I think people get stuck on how to explain them and they feel really silly. And I know that this is a disadvantage sometimes if you have a doctor like Phil as your upline. You're thinking, I can't do what he does because he's a doctor. He's finding the success because of his position, because of his practice, because of when I promise you, that is not the case, right?
Mhm.
A lot of this is actually because well, Vanessa, she's pretty amazing. And she's the one that's done a lot of the actual marketing, right? Reaching out to people, talking to people. Would you say that's true, Vanessa?
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
exactly. I mean, so didn't have a lot to do with Phil owning his own practice. It had to do with you got them,
Mhm.
you loved them, you were using them on your kids. And then Phil is a smart guy and is like, that would be amazing. His research solidified it for you. And so now you're both doing it, right? But
Yep.
you don't have to be a practitioner in order to grow a team. Obviously,
Nope.
most of us are not. So that's kind of what we're going to share about. But if you want to tell us though, like if Phil, someone came to me and asked me, hey, I like these patches, I get it, but I don't really understand how they work at all. What is the easiest thing that someone can do to explain that?
Right. So here's what I would say to answer that. Especially when people, because we've experienced and we've seen that the patches work, but it's hard to explain something that almost sounds science fiction. It almost sounds, how do you use something that's not medicine or anything? And how does that translate to helping support my anxiety or helping to support depression or pain, to really affect those things for the benefit of the person. And so I think just easily and I think you did this too, Ricky. It's one of those things you just kind of give people visuals. So if I'm talking to someone and I put my hand on something hot, I don't know my hands on something hot. I'm talking to somebody. I'm looking at somebody. But there's receptors in my hands, nerve receptors in my fingers and hands and throughout your body. So really it's just I put my hand on something hot. There's a message that goes to my brain. You don't have to say what part of the brain, it just goes to the brain. The brain sends a message back to the hand and says, hand, move, you're burning yourself. And you do that. You don't think about it. It just happens. Or if you get bit by a mosquito or something and you're talking to someone again and you hit your leg, you don't see it. This message goes to the brain, something's biting you, get rid of it, you hit the mosquito. That same message is what I just tell people is a message you put a patch on for a specific reason, or it could be a number of reasons you're using it for. The message goes to the brain and the brain addresses that issue.
Yeah, awesome. So
that's
now,
really, because it's really, if you it's really just telling people, there is medicine that does that, but the medicine also uses certain types of signaling. The patch is just using, I know we call it tactile, vibrotactile technology, but all it really means is I put the patch on, it sends a message to the brain, and the message helps address issues, supporting address issues, or however you want to say that. Right. Or you could say, yeah, if you want to say, Phil said it helps address issues, that's fine.
Right. No, exactly. That's what I love is that everybody on your team you guys all now can just say, oh, this is how it works. This is how my doctor explains it. Right. And then that's so great. But another big side thing is that I'm not joking when I say 90% of people really don't even care how it works. Like they don't care. I mean, how many of your patients ask you how anything works at all, right? So don't get hung up either on thinking that people have to know anything more than what they know, because honestly, they don't. Half the time I hear people say, oh my gosh, just trust me and try it and give me a little bit, right? Because they work. That's what we know about them. So The biggest thing when you're sharing with people is just you use Phil, use his experience, use his knowledge and his wisdom and everything that he's doing in his clinic. Use those stories, use your own stories. Stories are what sell. Like when you're sharing anything, it's stories that sell. I use testimonies all the time. Make sure you're in the testimony group. So when you reach out to someone, you find what their pain points are right away or what their goals are, whatever. And as long as you're genuinely loving on them, treating them like a human, they're going to feel that. They're going to love that. So I reach out to people, or if someone asks me, hey, I've been wondering about the patch, then I'll ask them, okay, what is it you're needing? What is it you're looking for? And then they come back and they tell me it's weight loss, it's pain, it's whatever. So then I will send them to new testimony every single week until they sign or until they purchase. Like it's super simple. That's a very, very, very simple way to do things. Another thing that you guys have to remember are those 7 market differences. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. You've got to, like, what we have is so unique. It's very different. Nobody else on the planet has this. It's only ours. It's copywritten in 186 countries or something, right? So it's copywritten. It's only Jay's. There's nothing that compares. It's for every person on the planet, whether it's a baby, an old person. Like our liability to have something. How does that feel, Phil, to have something that has such low liability? Does that feel amazing?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I know just as a normal person, sometimes how much that weighs on making sure things are okay and safe. So to know it's for everyone, it's a really, really big deal. So you're standing in a room, every person in there is your prospect. Every single person is your prospect. To grasp that when it comes to business, like you just don't find things like that. Okay. They work. Not only do they work, and we've heard everybody hopefully on here has seen Phil's video, which people love, by the way, Phil, the video that you did going over the studies.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been super helpful for people. So we know they work. We know they work from the studies. We know they work from our own stories, from your friends' stories. Then on top of that, they work quickly. We're not having to wait 30 days, 60 days. Guys, these are massive when you're talking about any other network marketing company out there. To have something that works so quickly, they're affordable. All of that market research was done and went into how much people would pay for the patches. That marketing research was done before the patches were launched. And it's still true to this day. Like it's across the board, people all say they're affordable. Obviously the simplicity as well is huge. This is number 6, right? So the first one, it's unique. It's for everyone. It works quickly. It's affordable. And then it's simple. It's easy to use. It's really patch and go. That's it. You do not have to know anything big, anything else. And then the 7th reason is the CapEx program. And as that continues to grow, you guys will be able to see more and more. I'm seeing that payout really, really huge in my overall business. We'll have to look at y'all's check next, Vanessa, where I can break that down for you and show, but that's going to be a really huge, very cool thing over time. So that's 7 things you don't get anywhere else. So you can't be frozen in this. You've got to know what we have and be able to just jump out and share it and be able to use Phil and use how he's explained that. I promise you're overthinking things. And when I started in network marketing, I did the same thing like years ago, even with the supplement company I was into. Like I would just like give them way too much info, and you don't have to do that. Like it's the easiest thing ever to just, right? Like you're just patching, going. That's it. It's super, super simple.
Yeah.
So
and also, yeah, I was just thinking, because I think what I'm hearing from people is they know the patches are good. That's why they signed up. It works for their family. But then what is the next step to sharing it? Like some people aren't, I think everyone on here has social media, but they don't want to turn their social media into a car salesman dealership.
We allowed to. That's so.
Someone said, are they allowed to?
It's not always the best thing, just because you usually want to talk to people first, just so that you can help them get the right thing. But if that's what you want to do, you're absolutely allowed to post that anywhere you want to. I mean,
well, I think like Ricky, you were saying, what I try to do is weave it into my family. So it's not every post, but my daughter is struggling with anxiety, then I happen to mention, she's doing so, just a little something about it. I don't say, we're using this patch on her, it works, here's my website. But you're creating interest, right? Like it's called a slow drip, where you're sharing. That's what Ricky did, and that's what drew me to it too. Like I didn't know what she was talking about. I just saw the little patch. I was intrigued, but I wasn't, until it was time, until I needed it, right? So, but I don't think I would never recommend just posting your website, because you never know who's like looking at it. You kind of want to have a direct message with them, so that you're able to share like what they are, what they do. But you're kind of just creating that interest on why you're using it, what you're using it for, how it's helping your family, or like I'll share a testimony that Phil gives me about a patient in the clinic, just because everyone is struggling with something and they can all use them. So definitely share. I mean, if you're on social media, I just feel like that's a fantastic tool, unless you're knocking on people's doors. I mean, this is such a great way to get the interest started.
And exactly what you said is the truth. It's the sharing of the stories. It's the real life things, how you're really using them. And you have to understand that like, this is really impacting people. Like, I mean, the stories I get are absolutely insane on a daily basis. I'll read you one right here that I just got. This is what she told me. She said, we are just changing the world one person at a time. There are so many stories I can't share publicly because of compliance. I have a client who lives in a city. She called me last week beside herself because her husband was suicidal. He quit his job. He was so depressed. She needed help ASAP. I sent over Kick It, Peace and Joy. Ladies, just 1 week in, it was just 1 week. He called me this morning crying, telling me I saved his life. He said his thoughts are completely different. Like that is wild. That is so wild.
Yeah.
Right.
And can I tag into that too? Just something real quick, Ricky. I know sometimes we'll get questions from people. One of the big questions is, I'm on all these different medicines. Is it safe to do the patch while I'm doing all these things? In our world, it's like, as a family nurse practitioner, polypharmacy is one of the biggest things that kind of is like, we always have to be careful for doing this medicine and this medicine. How are they going to interact? Is there going to be a bad interaction? With the patches, it feels great, because it's one of those things I know I can help people, and we all can help people, and there's no concern of interaction. Like I have no concern. It doesn't matter what medicine you're on or what you're doing. Even if it's like a little mom who brings in her little child, I can use that without concern of, is this going to affect the kidneys or nothing? Or is it going to interact with the medicine? So if you guys ever get that question, well, I'm on these medicines or I'm on this, is this safe to do this? Completely across the board.
Yeah. And that's so unheard of. And so crazy. So that we have this at our fingertips to be able to help people in these ways. Like, I don't take it lightly. Like it's such.
What about pregnant women?
Yeah. Same, pregnant, nursing. So there's one. So that she's just the pregnant woman. What are the other things you guys are running into?
I know some people came across and said, I tried this, it doesn't work. And I've been trying to encourage people, remember, it's a signal to the brain. So even in the world of medicine, I'm sometimes in, people, it's rare you'll have someone take a medicine and say, hey, it didn't work. They'll try it for a little while. So I just encourage people, hey, sometimes it takes a little longer with people, depending on what's going on with their system. I was talking to one of the MDs that Ricky, I miss the MD that's in Quebec, or the doctors in Quebec. And so I was talking to her a little bit, and she said, it's interesting. Sometimes there's something else going on with the system, or there's just something practical. And I don't know how much everyone is able to ask questions or even feels comfortable asking questions. But I was even telling the nurses in the office that work with me, there was a lady that said, I use the REM patch and it doesn't work. And I said, okay, well, tell me about your sleep. Like, what's going on? She's like, well, I'm waking up to go to the bathroom every night. I said, well, good. You want that to happen. I said, stop drinking water 2 hours before you go to bed. After she did that, she said, this REM patch is amazing.
Right.
I said, okay, so practically there's some things that may be going on for people to say it doesn't work, but it is a message to the brain. So because it's not medicine, it's really a signal to the brain to do something. So unless somebody has a severe brain impairment, which some do, and that may affect that, it should pretty much work. So when people say, it doesn't work, I always think, what else is going on? And like I said, I don't know how comfortable people are jumping into that, but I don't just go ahead with that.
No, yeah. Well, something to remember too, that's why we do the balance test on people. And it's why you say, when you put the Liberty on, do you feel any different before you do the results, right? You put the Liberty patch on and you're like, do you feel any different? And they're like, well, no. Okay. And then you show them the difference, right? Like you did the balance test before the Liberty patch. You put a Liberty patch on. Do you feel any different? No. Okay. I'm going to show you how different you actually are, right? That's why the balance test is so important, because
Good.
There are people who do feel like, I have people who tell me all the time, like, oh my gosh, the peace patch feels like I took a Xanax almost. I mean, you hear things like that, or like I had the joy patch on and I giggled all afternoon. Sometimes you hear things like that, but there's a huge percentage of the time that people will put things on and they don't feel or notice anything, but it's absolutely still working. So as the advertising grows, and you guys are going to be hearing a lot about it too. A lot of the people, one of my guys that's on y'all's team has, he's the talent scout for the Dallas Mavericks. And so he's connected Jay and the Dallas Mavericks. This next month, they like have a meeting and he's connecting him with the Suns. And then he also has 3 different meetings with Olympic chairmans in Europe or whatever. Like, it is wild, the connections that he has, and these people are all freaking out over it. So it's not like and again, the cool thing is Jay comes in and he meets with the doctors and he brings all of his science, and there's no way, like, everybody's like, this is mind blowing, because when you can see the difference, especially as an athlete, when you see the difference in those studies on increasing, the strength, and that's a big deal performance wise for a professional athlete, because they work all the time to increase by a tiny amount. So to be able to increase by that big amount, I really want to encourage you guys, don't prejudge. Like, your thoughts on what your view of the world is not the actual view of the world for everyone, because my audience is completely different. My audience would say the opposite, and they think nothing medically works. Like, that's genuinely my audience, right? So don't think like everyone out there thinks, oh, if it's not a med, it doesn't work, because that's the whole point, is that the cool thing is that these are genuinely for everyone. They're for your holistic friends. They're for your medical friends. Like, they are something that can be put in any and all environments, but whatever you think is what's going to be projected onto everybody you're talking to. Okay. That's just also one of the biggest things when it comes to leadership, even at all, like, just understanding that whatever it is you're talking about or you're projecting. And that's why we always tell people, even when they're trying to level up in any sort of social selling or whatever, it's, it's the whole getting over yourself, right? Like, getting over caring about what other people think is a really big deal. That's the number one problem all the time in MLM. I promise you, the number one problem is always caring about what other people think. But the second one is doing that, of just sort of assuming that anybody thinks anyway, because I promise they don't. So you just be bold and get out there and know that, again, we genuinely have these 7 market advantages, though that's not something we created or made up. Like, that's for real. So if you start to think kind of the presentation we did, right? When you see, like, I can't remember what the number is, like however many billion needs that these patches hit altogether. Because usually, like in one of the supplement companies I was in, they would bring that up and they would say, hey, we're expanding our market to hit this many more people by bringing on this product, right? Like, we were only supplements. Now we're bringing in skincare. So we did used to do, or they'll say, okay, we're bringing in an energy drink. So now we're touching on, now not only are we helping people for sleep, now we're also we're helping people for energy, right? So, like, we have like every single one of those markers, and it's like billions per. The pain points that we have are touching and hitting billions of people. So, like, this is a marketing person's dream, because again, you can say, cool, we're going to hit how many billion people because we're doing skincare, and you can look at that and know and think that's a really great thing. But we have all of that. We have skincare, sleep, energy is coming next month. We have some energy right now, but we have the real energy dog coming next month. The balance, strength, depression, anxiety, whatever, like, right? Like, every one of those pain points we have. So, like, it's just it's so cool that we have that. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to you guys.
Yeah. And I also want to say too, that when I got started, Ricky was great about offering 3-way calls. So if you have somebody who, they have questions and you don't have all the answers, we don't have all the answers, but 3-way calls are a great way. You can do it with us. You could do it, Ricky, you could do it, whoever, get them on the phone, and then they can ask their questions and we can help you too. So you don't have to know everything. You can just connect people, and then as you're learning and growing, then you become more knowledgeable about having ideas.
It doesn't have to be weird. At the end of the day, all you're doing is sharing something that's working for you and that would improve the lives of people that you love. Like, that's, most people start out their warm circle and the people that they love the most, because you love those people and you want to help them, right? That's usually how people start out. But you can take it wherever you want it. I mean, I think you guys have heard me say that a million times. We have every little niche out there, and people are taking the patches to whatever their little passion is, whether that's, again, the adoptive parents, the veterans, the nursing homes, the retirement homes, truck stops for truck drivers, the autistic community, like really we have got some people just going to yoga studios because that's their thing. A dental, 2 different dental things. Like, so I'm just saying, like, the possibilities are endless. You just don't overthink it. Read all this testimony that I just got too from my girl. It's like just super fast. She said, and she's been trying to treat hers naturally anyways. And she said, I have been consistently wearing the Defend patch every day now for almost 3 weeks. And over the last 10 days or so, my white count has been increasing. It has been bottomed out to almost nothing for months. And I am not doing anything else differently. And she sent me over like the screenshots to show me. She's like, isn't this so crazy? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It doesn't surprise me, blah, blah. And she said, and everyone around me is sick and I haven't gotten sick. The people at the clinic keep making comments about how they're so surprised I'm never sick. And I just raise my arm and show the patch.
It's a great thing to kind of share about that. And like you'd say, Ricky, it's one of those things. It's not, I would never tell anyone to stop doing something they're doing. I would never use the word treat, but what's really cool about these patches is you can really see, and even in that testimony of the white count, I mean, it's showing it in the blood work that you're supporting overall health. And you're doing something that can help somebody that will not interact with the things they're already doing. So that, I mean, to me, it seems like a no-brainer.
I'm just going to ask a question. I just kind of got started, or I'm getting started, but I've been trying them all, I think, just to see, I guess, my own story, because I'm one of those skeptical ones, but I've definitely had great results with the pain patch, and I didn't think I'd even use that one. And I have noticed results with the weight loss and the kick it, especially together, because they did that little challenge. But I've noticed a lot of different things. And I think somebody said a while ago when I first came on, that when you wear 8 of them at one time, you don't know which one's helping you the most. Mm-hmm. So I've been kind of going overboard sometimes with putting a bunch of them on. But I did a little event the other day and kind of just started to get out there and let people know what I was doing. But now my question is going to be, okay, what's the best way to get back with those that you saw, or that showed interest without overwhelming them?
Okay, I love that. That's a super good question. So I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, and you were not on for this. And so I'm going to say it again. This is really the easiest thing for me. So you ask, if someone comes to you and they ask you for something, and you find out what their goal is or what their pain point is, right? So if they have something specific that they want to lose weight, they want to balance, they want to whatever, you find out what that is, and then you just reach back out. And you're pretty bold and you're reaching out. You're like, hey, just checking in with you. Are you ready for me to help you place an order? Are you ready to help? Are you want me to help you join? And if then they're like, no, I'm not ready yet. Okay, I'm going to keep checking back with you weekly then. That's pretty much what I say. And then every single week I will find a testimony from the testimony group that fits whatever their goal is, right? And I send that to them every single week, because I'm telling you, stories are what sell. Most people care more about stories and testimonies than they do research or anything like that. So that's one of my biggest tips that helps so much with people, is just sending them that and say, I saw this today. It made me think of you. I was going to send it to you and touch base and see if you're ready yet. And then that's a really good way to get, does that make sense? Is that helpful at all?
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my things, because I've waited like 5 days. Now, I did send something to 2 of them because I knew they wanted the pain, and I sent them the pain video and how it works. But then I need to get back with them because I had a couple of them interested in helping others already.
Right.
So I need to touch base with that person. I just wasn't sure how long to wait before I did that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is remember that you're the expert. And I know that sounds silly, but you really are. And in the same way that, like, if you were buying a car, or if you were buying whatever it is, makeup, right? Anything, like,
Right.
you're counting on that person to know and be there and answer. And now you don't want them bugging you necessarily all the time, but you did ask for info, right? So when we freeze up and we do nothing, that doesn't help either of us. Like, this was a genuine thing they wanted. You're genuinely here helping them, right? So don't overcomplicate that. And you're there, you're offering it, you're being bold. And if someone says, oh, you know what, I'm just not ready yet, I always ask, okay, do you want me to, like, take you off my list completely? Or do you just want me to give you a month? Like, you tell me when you want me to check back in with you. And then they'll tell you, and that's it. And if somebody has not responded to you for a few times, don't just ghost it. Don't just leave it. I would also say, like, let's say you've messaged her back every week for 3 weeks and there's been 0 response, but you know she's read it. Then I'll go back in and say something like, number one, either I'll call her, so that takes the awkwardness out of it immediately. The minute people hear each other's voices, that's easy, because sometimes things get messed up in Messenger, right? Or I'll go in and I'll message and say, hey, like, our friendship was here first. I do not want you freaked out by this. I will take you off my list today. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't me dropping the ball or something. You know what I mean? And usually that clears the awkwardness out immediately. And they're like, oh my gosh, no. I've just been busy. Or, you know what? I saw your message. I meant to respond. That's usually the response you get. And they're like, please don't take me off your list. I didn't mean to not respond. Just, check back with me again next week, whatever. But anyways, hopefully that's kind of,
no, that helps a lot. That helps.
Okay.
And I just want to give a super quick shout out to Cynthia, who is brand new, and she already did an event, and she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I'll just put some patches out, but I was so proud of her for stepping out of her comfort zone, right?
Yes.
Because it's that first step, and she's already got it done. She did it. And I know we did our first event with it too. And it was like, what are we it's just so, like, new to people. And it's kind of, it can feel overwhelming because you don't know everything, but you're just kind of helping. Let me do a balance test. And I was just so proud of her she's super busy. She works a lot. She's got lots of going on. She still did it. I was really proud of her.
Just touching in what Cynthia said too, which was really good. She said, I put the pain patch on and I found that it helped me. So here's one thing to take away. If I like 2 things to take away, I could really just emphasize to pretty much like everybody is, one thing is, when you know it works for you, it's something you want to share. And sometimes we don't think about it. Sometimes it can feel like, well, I don't want to bug somebody. But on the other flip side of that, if they're hurting, if you've ever had headaches or a migraine, it's like, I just want to get rid of this, and please, somebody help me with this. And so sometimes you're calling probably a week later and they're wanting relief like now. Right. And so you gave them, like, I know in our clinic, we gave like 1 or 2 patches. They're like, they'll come back and say, can I just get some more? My order's not here yet. And it's like, oh yeah. And so sometimes it's just that mentality of, if you think about what they're kind of going through, whether it's a kid who has trouble focusing in school or it's someone who has just pain so bad that it's debilitating, calling them may be a godsend to, like, thank you for your call. I need help with this. And so it's just caring for that person. So that's how that's how a lot of times we think about it. And then the other thing is, a lot of times I know we get nervous about the I don't know. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've said that. But the good thing is, it's like, I don't know, but I can find out. And that, honestly, I think even with people around me has built more confidence in people, that I'm not just guessing, but I'll look for that. And
that you don't know everything. Like what
right, right. You just
what a
don't.
relief for them to hear that you don't know everything. Like, great,
Yeah.
that means I can do this and I don't have to know everything.
Right. And it gives people confidence too. I think there's a confidence in that too. It's like, I don't know, but I'm going to find out and I'm going to help you. It just means I really want to find a good answer for you. I really want to do my due diligence and help you. So I think, I mean, just to give people confidence, I don't know is not a bad thing. Just have to say, I'm not sure about that. Let me find out. And then the other part of just like, not necessarily, you're not necessarily pestering people, even though it may feel like that. You're actually, people are needing help.
Yeah. And I think my biggest piece of advice for everybody on here, anybody starting a new business, if you will take yourself out of it and do exactly what Phil just said, if every single interaction you have, if you took yourself out of it, the focus on you, the whole, what are they going to think of me? And the whole, like every bit of that, am I bothering them? Am I whatever? If you took every bit of that out and all you ever focused on was the person in front of you and their needs, you will grow a massive business.
Well, I hope this was helpful. If you got on late, this is a record. We're going to send it out as a recording too. There's a lot of great information, hopefully, to get you guys started. And if you ever have questions, of course, you can reach out to us too. We want to help you guys.
Yeah. And so I'll stop this recording now.